So we appreciate you being here.
Good morning, Brandi. Thank you for having me.
I didn't want to dwell on, we've had you sitting here so many times talking about the process and I want the job and, I'd love the job. And now it's kind of like, let's move on, right? I don't think we have to dwell on those questions too much longer. So you had a couple swearing-in ceremonies. One of them was at the Northwest African American Museum. I think we have some pictures here. Being the first female African American police chief in this department's history. And this is another one of them that happened in South Park. What did that moment mean to you? There you are right there, being sworn in at the museum.
Yeah, it was just such a fulfilling moment for me. I've been leading up to this, and now I can sit there at that museum, particularly the Northwest African American Museum. It's a place where the community comes together, talks about the history, and it gave me an opportunity to really sit with people who had worked really hard to advocate for me. And I just wanted to have a moment to pay homage to those who've gone before us, the trailblazers and the folks who were actually represented in that museum, who made it possible for a person like me to serve in the military, to be on the police department, and to now be the first African-American woman police chief. It really has meaning, and I wanted to make sure that we had that at the museum, not only out of respect for the history and what happens at the museum, but also to acknowledge that we're going to continue to write history as time moves on, and this was a great place to do it.
Do you think 26 years ago, joining the department, that you'd be putting your hand in the air and sworn in as the chief?
I can honestly say it wasn't on my radar screen day one. I just wanted to make sure I was doing the right job at the time for the position I was in, yeah.
It kind of seems like the year of the woman. So we have a female mayor in Seattle, a female mayor in Everett, a female mayor in Tacoma, who I understand you went to high school with.
Yes.
And in King County, the top two law enforcement officials in the entire county are now women. What do you make of that? I mean, I'm a little biased, but I do think women are just a tad bit better leaders or smarter, maybe.
Well, I won't say that, but I will say it's exciting, and it just shows how our culture and our society is evolving. Because we all know that, 20 years ago, the thought of this wasn't even a possibility. And here we are today with that in reality. So it just shows we're evolving, we're moving on, we're changing, and I think it's a wonderful thing.
Well, you guys better get some stuff done, because if you don't do that on behalf of women, then I'm going to have to eat the words.
Yeah, we're rolling up our sleeves as you speak.
Please do good work for women.
Yes.
On a more serious note, when you got the vote from the city council and they unanimously approved you being the next chief of police, you turned around and you said to the audience of supporters there, you said, I appreciate the support you've given me, and you had a lot of it. You said, but there are going to be tough times ahead, in so many words. And there are. It's a big department. It has issues, and policing has those issues all the time, whether it's an officer involved shooting, questions about use of force, how you deal with a protest. And you said basically that you want them to kind of stick by the department through those rocky times as well. Right. Do you think that's going to be the case, or is there going to be a point where the honeymoon's over?
Well, I think people will stick with us and stick with the police department. They know we are sincere, and me, particularly my leadership, is certainly, we're sincere about showing that we're a part of the community, about building trust and legitimacy. And I've often said, I want to work really hard, but my legacy, I want it to be that every person that has a contact with an officer knows and feels like they've been treated with respect. And that's what I want to leave here with, and making sure that we are absolutely trusted by the community that we serve.
You spend a lot of time out with the community. I watch your Twitter feed, and every night I feel like you're out at some sort of, we might have some pictures here, some sort of community events and meeting with different groups of people. Even though you're out there and the pictures are them kind of smiling and taking pictures with you, have they expressed any sort of lasting concerns that they have about the department and things they want you to fix now that someone they like and trust is in that job?
Absolutely. This one thing we don't have to worry about in Seattle, people want to be heard and they make their opinions and thoughts known. So even yesterday when I was walking down the street, someone said, I really want you to work on our traffic issues. I really want you to help in my neighborhood.
Traffic!
Yeah, I know. But, in the city, they were talking in this. So people have their concerns and their issues. They want to express them. I don't feel at all that people are going to be shy about letting me know what it is they want to see and how they want to interact with the police department. And I think it's really my job to make sure that I bridge any gaps between officers and the community, that we make sure that we're trusting each other, that we're committed and devoted to public safety and to really engaging.
So the public trust aspect aside of it, what are your top priorities? You're on the job now.
Yeah, so I've mentioned multiple times, but I'm happy to say it again. First and foremost, I want to make sure that we're fighting crime and disorder in the city, that we're making sure that we are taking care of those criminal aspects, not criminalizing homelessness, but making sure that every aspect of criminal behavior that we're addressing it. I also want to make sure that we have the best service that we can provide to the public here. We want to make sure that everyone feels like, and I say this, that the sort of the Nordstroms of policing, that we're always making sure that we have public service first and foremost in our hearts and minds, that we have pride and professionalism, that people who wear this badge and even the civilian folks in our department, that all of us really have pride in working for the Seattle Police Department and the service that we provide to the community. I want to make sure that we're using data-driven practices and procedures so that data drives, our deployments, our resources, and how we're serving. And I want to make sure that we're using good business practices, making sure that this $353 million budget that we have, most of it's spent on personnel, but whatever's in that budget, that we're using that money appropriately.
The first thing you said there was making sure that we're dealing with crime and disorder in the city. I mean, that's a pretty broad, generic term. And, when people think of disorder downtown, for instance, and you talked about we don't want to criminalize homelessness, there is a lot of the disorder downtown related to homelessness, related to low-level drug use, for instance. Right. And you know this as well as I do. There are things that your officers are going to want to do that perhaps the city attorney isn't going to want to pursue. This has been an issue in the past when it comes to low-level crimes, and it's not worth the time of an officer to write someone up for something they're not going to be charged with. So where are you on the same page with the city attorney to make sure that your officers have the ability to be able to do their jobs and improve crime and disorder in this city without being handicapped on the back end by their own city attorney?
Well, I wouldn't say that we're handicapped by the city attorney. I work closely with Pete Holmes. We are talking about not only him, but the mayor and city council. We're all working on trying to find a solution to make sure that we are taking care of people who need care and for their, whether there's addiction or mental health crisis or other things affecting them, but also for those who are engaged in criminal behavior, that we're dealing with that too. So we're all working collaboratively to make sure that we are addressing it. But it doesn't rest on one person's shoulders. It doesn't rest on the cops, it doesn't rest on the city attorney, on the council. We have to work together to make sure that we're doing everything that we can, and also, making sure that we're taking care of the people that we're there to serve. They actually are our customers too.
Yeah, and certainly we're not going to police our way out of a homeless crisis or an addiction crisis, and so that takes a lot of other people. I don't want to suggest that it doesn't. Chief of Police Carmen Best, no more of the interim. Yeah. Chief of Police Carmen Best, we appreciate your time and look forward to having you in a lot more for the good and the bad things.
Great.
To come.
Thank you, Brandi. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Here.